We're going to modify the tile calculator program to prompt the user for the number of walls that they would like to have the tile backsplash on, and then we'll take the number of walls and get the length and the width for each wall, and finally we'll use that area in inches to compute the calculations for the number of tiles needed. I have a scanner object already created. I'm going to create a prompt to ask the user for the number of walls that they would like to backsplash on. I'll store that variable into an integer variable called num of walls. Next, I'm going to create a for loop, and what I want it to do is for each number of wall that we have, I want it to prompt the user for the length and the width of the backsplash for that specific wall, and then I'll use that length and the width to find out the area in inches. I'm going to set this apart from the rest of our code and add in our for loop to encapsulate these items. I'll create a temporary counter variable called I, and each time that I is less than the number of walls, we're going to run this loop. And every time the loop is done running, we're going to increase I by 1. Right away, I'm going to use Eclipse formatting feature so that I can see what's inside of my curly brackets in the for loop. Error with my variable. Right now, I have an issue because I have a variable declared inside of my for loop when I'm trying to use it after my for loop is done. And we know that variables created inside of loops are only available during the loop run. So I'm going to adjust my code just a bit to make it a little bit easier on me. Rather than change all the spots where I use area in inches for the rest of my code, I'm going to change my code inside of the loop to call this temporary area in inches because it truly is just temporary for each run of the loop. Then I'll create this area of inches at the beginning of my program, and that's the number that we'll use to add in all the temporary areas. So you can see now that I've declared that variable outside of the for loop that my warning message in Eclipse went away. My program takes the current value of I and it asks them to enter in the length of the backsplash, the width of the backsplash. It takes those numbers and it computes it into the temporary area in inches. I need to create a variable to hold the total area in inches. And I already had that variable created. I just need to add in what's in temporary area of inches to the existing number in area of inches. Now whenever my loop is done running, area in inches will still persist because it's a global variable, and I'll be able to use that number in the rest of the calculations throughout the document. I'm going to make a change for the user. Please enter the length of your backsplash. I'm going to adjust this so that for every wall it tells them which wall they're entering. So let's take a look and see what this looks like whenever we run. How many walls would we like the backsplash on? We'll do 3. Please enter the length of your backsplash for wall 0. Well, we technically don't have a wall 0, but because I is initiated to 0, that's what the first iteration of I is as we go through here. We can adjust this, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. You can see now it finished up through the loop. It added in what was in the length times the width, and stored it into temporary area in inches, and now it added that number into area of inches. Let's look at wall 2, or yeah, it is wall 2, but they call it wall 1 right now. And then finally wall 3, and then our tile cost, and then finally it outputs the number of tiles we need and the cost for the project. Alright, so we have a couple issues that we need to deal with. The first one is we need to get I to actually display wall 1, wall 2, wall 3 versus 0, 1, and 2. We can do that by creating a temporary variable in here and add 1 to it. So, and then we can use temporary here, and this will solve our problem. See how it adjusted the wall 1 and 2. Another option is to change what I begins and ends with. So if we change I, I'm going to go ahead and comment this out and change this back to I. If we change I to begin at 1, it will automatically be 1 whenever it goes through and fills in for I. But the issue will be we'll end up 1 wall short. So let me run this and show you what happens. I to begin with is 1. We're going to say we want backsplash tile on 3 walls. Enter the length. And you'll see it didn't prompt us for wall 3. And that is because our condition in our for loop is less than. So if we adjust this to be less than or equal to, it will run until the condition is no longer met. So then we'll hit our 4th wall or our 3rd wall. Let's run that so you can see the change. There, now we get all of them in there and our display is correct and our loop ends when it should. A lot of times you'll see I automatically set to 0, and this will be I until it's less than, will run while it's less than whatever the condition is. But you don't have to always start at 0, you can start at 1, and you can also use other relational conditions for your for loop and your while loop so that it will run while those conditions are met. Remember to test and double check your program to make sure that it works for all the potential situations. We tested it and found initially that it wasn't going up to wall 3, so by making this change and modification now we can see that it does work as planned. So do take the time to test your programs before you are finished with your implementation.